And Stu on the mic, broadcasting through the night, talking F1, getting every fact kind of right. From the grid to the finish, they're all in. Top Step Podcast, let the race begin.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Top Step Podcast for the 16th show. That's right, Sweet 16, ahead of one of the biggest weekends in motorsport that F1 managed to royally fuck up for us next year. But we'll worry about that next year. This year is absolutely brilliant. I am Stuart Brown. I'm joined, of course, by the one and only Reece Ashmore.
Hello.
Good evening, mate. We haven't touched on the F1 calendar, which we might just have a quick look at this show. We haven't planned for that, but we will have a quick touch on that. But of course, we're here pre-Canada and heading to an awesome track actually in so I'm going to murder this, the Circuit de Gilles Villeneuve, otherwise known as the home of the Groundhog. And we're there this weekend for a reasonably favourable time zone race for us as well.
Yes, much better than what we've had. And I think the last of the okay race times for us for some time.
But as usual, let's get the show on the road with the right thing. Oh, that one went on the camera, I think.
I had to clean my screen.
I realise that we both take sips at the same time and the listeners just get, 10 seconds of slurp followed by a can crack. So I hope you enjoy the ASMR that we offer on this show. It is absolutely available on OnlyFans.
I'm going to do a 10-minute clip edit now of just us cracking cans and slurping and all the weird noises we make when we're trying to find stuff.
$10 a month, and there could be feet pics as well. So anyway, let's get this back into some form of normality.
Out of the gutter.
Mate, it's been a pretty quiet week as far as Formula One goes. So our storyboard's a little bit thin tonight, so it might be a bit shorter of an episode ahead of the Grand Prix than we're normally used to. Of course, after the back-to-back Grand Prix, everyone took a breath, including ourselves. And you've done the hard yards tonight in prepping for the show, but I get the luxurious task of running through and asking the questions. We're going to kick off first and foremost with something that I hadn't seen that you dropped into the inbox about Lance Stroll being confirmed after having his limp-wristed issue fixed.
Yeah, no, he's surprisingly confirmed. I was expecting, obviously, at least a few more weeks at minimum to be out. But I also think that it would have been a really, really good opportunity for Aston Martin to just kick him from the seat and put someone that can drive in there in the most tidiest of ways, in terms of no hurt feelings to the public as such, and sort of be like, Lance Stroll can no longer compete in Formula One due to doctor's orders or medical advice. But no, he's back in. And I know that he has all the money in the world, but this is sort of the his dad has all the money in the world. But this is sort of what happened when he did the initial wrist injury. Was he had some miracle surgery that worked, and then it didn't. So I'm not sure the longevity of this repair, but we shall see.
I don't think he's ever had surgery. I think he just got sent to his room for a couple of weeks for bad behaviour. And
do you reckon it's a top 10 or back to the naughty corner type of weekend for him?
They've let him. Well, it had escaped us that he's actually fallen out of the top 10 in the driver's standings, hasn't he?
To be fair, you kept sort of surprising me that he was still in there, so I'm not sure.
But the question I had for you, and you've touched on it a little bit already, is who would you think replaces him? Now, again, this is without preparation. I know they did have they've got a Formula 2 driver who's supposed to, and his name escapes me at the moment, but he's supposed to be absolutely brilliant. Or would you go with experience for the rest of the season ahead of the new car? Would you try and get, say, a Bottas or someone like that into the seat?
I think going into the rest of the season, at least, I don't think for image sake they would risk putting someone in with F2 experience that would outshine Stroll. I think that if they put Bottas in there, multiple race winning Bottas, champion, constructor champion with Lewis Hamilton for many years in there and said, oh, look, he competed really well. It would be, nothing unsurprising, but if they put an F2 driver in there and he absolutely just spanked Stroll, then there'd be concerns, I think, for the longevity of him actually being in that team.
Yeah, and I think also the other thing is points. So at the end of the day, they still want to get dollars in the door, even if, they are financially reasonably well off in the background. So putting an experienced campaigner in there instead of him might achieve that result. And, Alonso's showing signs that he might be able to do something in the balance of the season, but not to be, unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on where you are. Lance Stroll will be available for his home Grand Prix.
Definitely, unfortunately.
Which gives me a perfect segue into something that floated across both of our desks in our office this week. Yeah, we've got an office now.
Absolutely.
One Pablo Montoya has come out and asked an interesting question. The key question is whether Max Verstappen actually has to skip a race if he gets a 12th penalty point this week in Canada. Now, casting our minds forward, the next Grand Prix is the Red Bull Home Grand Prix in Austria at the Ring. And Max Verstappen currently sits on a Hulkenberg-like 11 points on his way. Have I got that right? Hulkenberg?
Magnussen.
Yep. Sorry, 11 points. So you confused the teams.
Kind of right.
11 points on his way to 12. Now, the question is, would they ban him for that Grand Prix? And the suggestion is that if they do, nobody will turn up to watch it. Thoughts, feedback,
90% of the people that would go would be a Verstappen fan. So I could see there being some sort of boycott, and I don't think they would risk. Well, to be fair now, their tickets are probably already sold. Actually, thinking about it now, as close as this is, the tickets are probably already sold. So they probably don't really care from the monetary value in terms of that. But the fan response wouldn't be great to the FIA. It wouldn't be the first time that they have bent and stretched rules and inconsistency. Magnussen has been the only driver to have that suspension since the penalty point system has been introduced. So a little bit of a different scale, talking about the current world champion versus K-Mag. And whilst he did great in the Haas, it is obviously no Max Verstappen. So I think they would do something to allow him to race if something was to happen this weekend. But I guess it also would stem to what happens this weekend. If it's another replica of what we saw with George Russell, I think they would probably go through with the ban. If it's something a little less, intentional or sinister, then maybe they let him play on.
I don't think that they will sway the rules at all.
Okay.
Because it sets a precedent, which is that you can rack up 20 points and it does matter who you are as to whether or not the penalty points will apply. Now, I couldn't find anything about potentially the team appealing it, and in the appeal, so let's say it's a contentious thing, in the appeal, the hearing being held over until after they race at the Red Bull Ring, which would give them an easy out to avoid the topic altogether and say, oh, well, we need to investigate further. And because of the timing of the two GPs, even though they're a fortnight apart, we might have to investigate, and we'll get back to you.
Do you think they'll do a Ferrari strategy and they'll go for a cup of tea and a biscuit and then come back to them in due time?
What's the only way the FIA could get around it?
Is it, though? Do I need to remind you that we're talking about the FIA? They seem to just chop and change whatever they sort of want at the minute.
Yeah, but I think there'd be too much backlash from the other big teams to say, you're kidding, aren't you? Like, it's not the right way to go about it. And that's why I say, as big a fan as I am of Max and his racing and all that sort of stuff, I hope they don't, because it just sets the wrong precedent for the sport. And I just don't think that they will. And if he does get a penalty, it frees him up for Spa.
It does. It does big time. And what a crazy thing that
Awesome
would be.
if he just ducked across the channel and went to Spa instead. So
I do have to ask in terms of that, because I have seen that in terms of the endurance schedule, and if he gets a point here and if he gets a point there, what endurances that he could do. Being what he does and who he's racing for in the competition that he's in, would there be a clause that he can't compete in something such high risk in the middle of the Formula One season? As in terms of like having an employer.
he would need approval.
Yeah,
he'd need approval.
Yeah.
He's needed approval in the past when he's done other things. So,
and the way that
I'm not
Red
talking
Bull,
sim things.
No, the way that Red Bull are at the moment, they probably would just be like, no, because they're not doing too great.
No, they're not. They're interesting. Yeah, as said, I hope the FIA don't do it. I don't think they will. But of course, he needs to rack up a point first before it becomes even a point of discussion.
Which, to be fair, I don't think he would. That's what I was saying. I don't think that he will do something like what he did. Not that I thought that he would do what he did with the George Russell incident, but obviously different circumstances. And looking back at some other replays and some other things and some other team messages going on from the last time we spoke about that was crap. So yeah, I think he'll keep his nose clean. Yeah.
Leads me into my next question for you on Stu's 15 questions in the 16th show. If he was to get a ban, who do you see replacing him? I saw plenty of feedback from Nico Rosberg encouraging Isaac Hadjar to avoid that seat at all costs, which of course we've been saying the whole season as well. It would suggest that probably I know they said that Liam was in contention. I did read that somewhere. It might not have been Red Bull that said that. Someone I did read say that they were both in contention. There's no way they're going to put Liam back in that car.
I don't think they'd disrupt the Visa Cash App cars at all. I think they'll bring someone else in.
So who?
You know who I'm going to say.
I do, and as a reserve driver for the team, he is an option.
He is, big time.
But I saw during the week that Arvid Lindblad, who is in the Red Bull F2 program, was granted a super license at the age of 17. Now, you enlightened me with some information about this before the show that I wasn't aware of. So he would be the youngest driver, but you said that they'd changed the rules?
They had changed the rules previously and increased the age. Max Verstappen was the youngest. But they had changed the rules that since he came in, so he was going to be forever the youngest. So getting an exemption to come through is pretty wild.
Yeah, and at the age of 17, he is leading or is high up in the F2 ranking at the moment. But you've also commented before about how different the F2 car is to the F1 car. So if their plan is, if something happens to Max, to dump him into the car, it's a pretty interesting strategy from them when they've got the experience sitting in the sidelines, protect the car, don't spend any money, and instead maybe dumping a 17-year-old into the current world champions car.
That we know is so hard to drive. Like it's apparent now, it's clear as day that it's difficult to drive. Yuki's not. The Visa Cash App guys are exactly where Yuki is in the Red Bull car. It's not the car that's quick, it's Max that's quick. So putting anyone else in that car that is difficult, we're going to end up with another Lawson situation where it's, if he's down for one race and he bins the car and then it costs, dollars out of Max's cap for the season, like that's not what they're going to want to do. They're going to want to put someone with a level head and someone that can drive in a similar manner. And the only person that has competed in the same car relatively close to Max in the past was Ricciardo.
Yeah, well, there was still rumors circulating about him as well, and Cadillac and the potential there. So
at what point do you call Sergio back?
Well, I mean, you look at last season, he got 107 points or something off the top of my head last season. and this season they've got, 9 in total from the second driver? Not even that, two or three from the second driver. So it sort of makes that decision to axe Sergio look really, really poor, because he brought dollars into the team as well.
Big
So
dollars.
in hindsight, it was a very, very bad decision for them to do it. But I guess hindsight, as it is always 2020. They weren't going to know that a younger, more enthusiastic driver in Lawson wasn't going to do the deal. And then I think Yuki's actually done a reasonably good job.
I'm mad. I'm impressed with Yuki, to say the least, and the way that he's holding himself and the way that he's speaking now, it's it doesn't make sense. But it's good to see. There's some things that, again, that we're going to start calling as the Simpsons 2.0. We did say that for him to get better as a driver and when with the media, he needs to shut up and do it on the track, and he's kind of done that. He hasn't come out and said anything really stupid in the last few weeks.
No, he hasn't. No, and all credit to him. He it seems to have matured his tantrums, and maybe that's part of what they spoke about.
Yeah, humbled him.
Humbled him's a really good way of putting it, actually, because he thought his shit did not stink.
Yeah. And now he realizes that he's a HJ's poo, and away he goes.
We'll always admit it when we get it right, but we'll also admit it when we get it wrong. And I thought it was going to implode. So, and maybe it has. Maybe that's why the whole team's imploding. But, who knows what happens there. So this weekend, we're off to Canada, as we said at the top of the show. One of my favourite tracks. Not really the best race track getting around, but I love it. Driving around on iRacing. It's one of my favourite tracks to go to. Because it's got that old feel still, which doesn't help with the big cars, the ever weekly topic that we need to talk about, which is whether or not there's going to be any passing done at this race. Now, there's more likelihood of it here than there has been in weeks past, but of course qualifying is going to be really, really important again this week. What are you looking forward to, and what are your thoughts about the race to be?
Well, since 2021, Max has won every Canadian Grand Prix. So 21, 22, 23, 24 have all been Max. 2020 was cancelled. 2019 was Lewis Hamilton. So I understand that the car's a little bit different now, but the car wasn't, from 2021. The car was there was other cars around the 2021 Red Bull car that were competitive as well. So seeing that, I'm holding on to the fact that Max is going to come alive. I do, however, think that it'll be an Oscar weekend.
Yeah, I think that the interesting thing here, of course, is that the DRS, I should say, advantage that Red Bull enjoy. There's going to be a little bit of it, but it's not a really super fast circuit. So that sort of tire temperature management that McLaren have been, I think, is their biggest advantage.
It's the tire water.
Clearly with the wing changes, we'll see a little bit of that. Here, there's they're not even really high speed corners, are there? There's chicanes more than anything else. That I think we'll see probably still a McLaren domination here. And again, we spoke about it last week that the tire strategy for Red Bull, it's going to kill them if they have to burn tires to get into Q3. And here particularly as well, if they're going to do that, then they're going to struggle with that later race management. So, Ferrari might be a shout here if they can get themselves together. It's a WEC weekend, so their counterparts will be doing their job in Le Mans, but hopefully they can get the job done over in Canada. So I think you're right. I think it's going to be a McLaren domination again, and it's a question of whether or not Max can, strategy-wise, get something that will play into his hands.
I do wonder tire management. I do wonder from last weekend if that became so clear that they've got it so wrong for the race that may change the conversation from quali. and not try and push sort of more out of tires rather and leaving him with some new sets. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, running hards for the first time as the last tyre you're running when everyone else is on mediums, it echoed terrible.
I
don't know how else to describe it.
I'm gonna just touch on this once more and leave it well and truly alone from that the incident with George. The FIA came out and said that there was going to be no further action towards Max after the initial George and Max kerfuffle that sent him off the track and all that sort of stuff, that they told him to give the place back. There was going to be no further action. So the first time that Red Bull told him to give a place back was absolutely wrong. It was never going to be anything. It was never going to be an issue. So they created that.
Yeah, absolutely
Anyway.
they did, and hopefully they don't do it again. Of course, it means that I do need to mention one thing, which is that as we head to the circuit that bears his father's name, we will be subject to
Don't say
the
it.
groundhog making an appearance trackside.
But
standing.
Which groundhog?
Well, again, you've really done everything tonight. All I've done is ask some questions. You've dropped this in, which is that Max Verstappen has revealed he had a near miss with a groundhog during his drive to victory lane at the F1 Canadian Grand Prix. I'm assuming this is last year.
Yes, yep.
Montreal's famous rodent who lives on the island housing the circuit Gilles Villeneuve has proven problematic when F1 rolls into town. Indeed, several groundhogs have had run-ins with the cars down the years. Former Haas driver Romain Grosjean hit a groundhog in 2018. He was quick as well in practice for the 24-hour.
Yep.
In 2018, while ex-Williams racer Nicholas Latifi accidentally ran one over in 2022. Carlos Sainz and Lewis Hamilton narrowly avoided a woodchucker. I love that description. A woodchucker during free practice 2 on Friday. And reigning world champion Verstappen said he too had a close shave on lap 32 of Sunday's Grand Prix. He was almost dead, Verstappen said in a post-race press conference. I started to get to the last chicane and I thought it was debris initially. I started to close in and then I'm like, oh my God, it's an animal. So yeah, I swerved right at the last moment. I don't know what happened after. Mercedes' George Russell, who finished third, interjected to say, I saw it, he ran off. And that was actually Jacques running off into the distance.
The groundhog theory,
mate.
It's not even a theory at this point.
No, it's not a theory.
It's not at all. It's proven. It's in the book.
So a theory is something that you suggest that may or may not have proof.
There is endless amounts of proof.
We have proof. So yeah, and it also reminds me kind of like of the kangaroos that we get down in Australia at Bathurst. If you don't see a kangaroo at Bathurst, it hasn't really been Bathurst, has it?
No.
Or a wallaby,
yeah, either or.
So Jacques Villeneuve will be there, standing right next to the pit wall, making car noises as he did. Was that was last year? He literally stood last year at one trackside and went, "Oh, as they go past, they go vroom, vroom, vroom." I remember it. It was anyway. So that gets us to predictions. Now this is going to be an interesting one here. So it's your week as well, so you're up with first choice, which is unfortunate. But surprise packet, who are we going for this week?
Ooh, I'd done some work on this, and I've been trying to be a little bit more, educational based in terms of my predictions. But everything I'd sort of looked at and pointed to, I think the surprise packet this week is going to be Carlos Sainz.
That is an interesting one after a poor weekend in Spain. I like it. So surprise packet. So what do you think he's going to be surprising us with?
A Q3 in quali, and I've put here, I think he's going to go for a top 5 finish.
I like that. I like that a lot. I am actually going to stick with the old timer. I'm going to go with Alonso for a top 5 finish.
Oof, okay. Yep.
You
reckon it's got to be
remarkable?
Yep.
But yeah, it's got to come.
Brewing.
It's one of those things. It's kind of like, and you'll appreciate this, kind of like tipping West Coast, knowing that at some stage you'll get it right. You'll burn 19 tips in the process,
Yeah.
but that 20th one will be beautiful.
Was it St Kilda that West Coast won against?
I don't know. I don't follow St Kilda, so that doesn't bother me. It's hard to see all of those teams from the top of the ladder, mate. So biggest mover?
Ooh. Backwards or forwards?
Well, it can be either. I mean, we've never stipulated that it has to be a positive move. It could be backwards.
Yeah. I hadn't actually. I've got my predictions here, and I hadn't actually put a biggest mover in there. But I have to go with the Hulk. I just have to.
You're going to stick there.
Yeah.
Well, so again, that way at least you'll get it right either way. If it goes up or down, you'll get it right.
But again, just like tipping West Coast, no one would have guessed that he got a P5 for P6.
I'm going to go, and I've got a special one for you as well for tonight. But biggest mover, I'm actually going to go with Bortoletto. I was impressed with how he drove at Spain.
Yep.
So I'm going to go with him as the biggest mover up. I don't think qualifying wise might work for them, but I think that maybe he can do something, maybe sneak into Q2 and do something strategy wise.
Is it crazy that we're talking about the green tractors actually doing something? I didn't expect them to be anywhere. And
which have they got better, or has everybody else just got worse?
Well, that's an idea. They could be the same.
I think it's probably that they've just come a little closer. I mean, again, we've spoken about it. Everyone at some stage is going to stop spending on these cars.
Yeah.
And move towards next season. I don't think we're quite there yet, but maybe they're just slightly catching back up. And then we've got pole position and winner before the special selection.
I'm going to go a double Oscar Piastri. Well, I thought, looking back, I was like, and this is where I was going through, I'm like, looking at everything, I was like, it's going to be a max weekend. It's going to be a max weekend. And then I can't see it with the struggles they're having.
I am going to go with a Lando pole and a Leclerc victory.
I was going to say, you can't have Lando on pole and winning. That's not how that works.
I can't, but I physically can't bring myself to do it.
Yeah.
But I'm going to go with Leclerc for a win. I'm going to go with contact.
Yep.
McLaren contact, Leclerc through in the clear.
You reckon 2 McLarens contact?
Contact.
Okay.
Contact. So, which brings me to my surprise one. Who will be the first driver to hit the wall of champions?
Liam Lawson.
Wow. I thought it was going to be a surprise, and you've just dropped it straight in there. I'm going to go with Stroll. I thought you'd go there. Stroll will be too busy looking for the groundhog, and he'll just run straight into the wall.
Remember, he doesn't drive on the road.
No. Can you stay out? Yes, I can stay out. Bang, straight into the wall. Yep. So I'm going to go with Stroll, but Wall of Champions definitely going to claim a victim this weekend.
Well, it depends. If it's Stroll, it could be a victory.
It could be in free practice 1.
Yeah. Okay. Yep.
As well. Yep. It could be real early on. Did you get a chance? I noticed our local weatherman he's on holidays at the moment.
I was literally just looking at the inbox, and there's been no video dropped whatsoever, which is just. He's only been at work 2 weeks.
Have you had a chance to have a look at the weather? Are we expecting anything exciting there to happen, or is it just going to be mundane?
To be honest, I was waiting for the weatherman to drop in, so I haven't actually looked at all, which is I need to give him. That's a written warning.
He needs to be sacked.
It absolutely needs to be sacked. So let's have a look, because
I'll put you on the spot.
No. Absolutely fine. 20% chance of a race day is 20% chance of rain, 23 degrees, and we're talking Celsius, minimum temperature at 12. So lower 12, top of 23, so clear. And FP3 in qualifying, less than a 20% chance of rain, 22 and 12. So it's pretty good race conditions, especially when we're talking about tyre management as well, with those lower temps. It's going to be. It might actually be beneficial for the Red Bull because it can get the tyres up to temp quicker.
Interesting. Well, we will see. Of course, we're going to. It's a little shorter one tonight, just with the pre-race show. But then we'll have a post-race show Monday night, out Tuesday morning. Our usual schedule before we then head to the Red Bull Ring in another week's time after that.
Do just want to touch before we roll out into the calendar for 2026.
Yeah,
just to touch
let's have a
base on
quick
that.
chat about that.
Obviously, Melbourne, Australia got their first race of the year again, which is generally the standard before COVID times stuffed everything up. But talk about your concerns with where we're heading and when we're heading.
So, I
And
didn't
dates and
dive into
such.
this. I didn't dive into this in depth, but they haven't listened for one
No.
because we don't circumnavigate the globe once. We're doing this rubbish where we dart all over the world again. Obviously, we've got Madrid coming on to the list. They've dumped that into September, so a late summer. Where are we? July? Yeah, late summer for. No, it'll be early autumn, actually. Sorry, for the Spain Grand Prix. I'll probably totally stuff that up. I'm tired, in case you can't tell. So you can roast me in the comments if you want. And it runs right through to December 4, which I like. Spa's back on it because of its biennial involvement. So, but they've basically, and I can't remember which weekend it is, but there was a weekend where you had IndyCar, Formula One, and then like this weekend where you've got Spa, so you've got Le Mans and you've got Formula One, and they basically divided it up now, so there's no more of these motorsport enthusiast weekends where you could plant yourself in front of the TV like a potato for 3 days and just watch motorsport in a festival kind of environment. The one thing that I thought they might have done, which they haven't, is, and you brought this up, is to shift Japan because it's still in torrential rain season. And I thought they might have moved it to the tail end of the calendar like it used to be and maybe bring it in between Brazil, USA, and then Qatar and maybe dump it in there or after Singapore. Obviously, Singapore and Japan kind of make sense.
Yeah.
In a double header.
Yeah, but again, like it would make sense because of the monsoonal rain that happens at that time of year every year.
Yeah, absolutely. So it that there's nothing really that's that exciting for mine. I think they definitely should circumnavigate once. I don't know why they aren't. They need to have Asia, Europe, Americas over.
I am excited for the placement of the Singapore race, October 9 till 11, with clashing with the Supercars Bathurst 1000. And whilst obviously, interest of supercars is sort of changing and motorsport is developing, it's still a staple in terms of my motorsport calendar for the year. So having the Singapore Grand Prix and Bathurst 1000 on that weekend is a good weekend of motorsport. But I do enjoy when there's, again, just 3 days of potato time because it doesn't happen a lot. And so when it happens, it's like, cool. No, I'm busy that weekend. I am here.
Great to see. I mean, it was going to happen, of course. Spa and Zandvoort back on the calendar as well.
Yep.
So we knew it was happening because that was by design. But
Spa shouldn't be a question. Spa should be there every year.
And can you talk me through one other thing that we haven't discussed, which is why the hell Spain gets 2 Grand Prix?
There's a lot of things. I don't.
Why?
When we're talking about racetracks like Zandvoort that's just come back in and Spa getting rotated, and then you've got 2 Grand Prix. I can't make sense of it. I can't make sense of a lot of their decisions, but that's a big one.
Why wouldn't they do them back to back?
Because they like to spend money on fossil fuels to fly the cars around. I don't know. I really don't. I just wish someone would listen.
You know what I'm going to do before next show? I'm going to come up with my own F1 calendar.
Yep.
And we'll talk through it. I'll put it into the atmosphere after we do it. But I'm going to come up with my own calendar because it's now that you've drawn my attention to it. Now I'm getting angry about it. Like,
So-
why do we go? Why do we go to Miami in May, Austin in bloody October, and then in November we go back there to go to Vegas? Now I get we go to Mexico and Sao Paulo in the middle, but anyway.
So you've just pointed out another really concerning fact is the 3 American races, and we're getting rid of, and not to mention Monaco and things like that. And I understand it's a prestigious and expensive race and all that sort of stuff, but Spa is a phenomenal racetrack. Has to be one of the best racetracks in the world.
Well, and they've moved Monaco after Canada next year.
Yep. Yeah.
So we're going to go back to front. We're going Canada for a week and then heading to Monaco and then back to back with Spain.
Well, we're
and then
doing
another break.
We're doing Miami, Canada, but then Monaco's after that. So yeah, I don't know.
It hurts.
I do like that idea though, and I think I'm going to do the same. Let's try and do, and obviously we want to take into consideration travel time from other places and the calendars and the triple headers and the double weeks and things like that. But let's try and work out. We'll each do a Formula One calendar to use the least amount of fuel, so then we can go back to roaring V12 engines.
I would like them to deforest Hockenheim, the old Hockenheim, and reopen that. I mean, how far can we go with this? I want Rainbow Road included on the Formula One calendar.
Does it?
Not the new one, like 64
Yep.
Rainbow Road.
As long as it's got the glitches, I'm in.
Yeah, 100%.
So-
They can jump
They can
between
bump tracks.
sections. Like, what about that racetrack in Japan that private guy built on the side of his mountain that he owns? What about that one? And why aren't we going to the Bend? Why aren't we in Australia 50 times? Anyway, and New Zealand. Why isn't there a GP in New Zealand? Go to Pukekohe. That'd be great.
No,
Imagine that.
that'd be huge.
They can go from Pukekohe over to Tassie and have a run down there at that little squirt. And then we'll get him up to Winton.
Is that just
They
a
can have
whole
run around Winton?
Are they just going to do a whole lap of Tassie? Like this one, the race is just an endurance across Tassie for an hour and a half.
Would be cool. We're rambling now, but what would be cool? Imagine if they did Isle of Man, like just one lap, Formula One, and put the full Nürburgring on. Let's do the 24-hour layout. Let's just do it. There's less trees to hit.
Yeah.
Turn left at the Armco. All
Yeah,
that.
absolutely.
don't
It's
know
getting
why
to
they're
that
not doing
time.
it.
Getting to that time of the night where
Where rambles are happening. But thank you for joining us on the show. We're going to put that together. Drop your thoughts in the comment. What should be there? What shouldn't be there? And as always, do jump on to all of our socials, TikTok, where we are trending, and also obviously onto YouTube or Spotify, wherever you listen to or watch our lovely faces on this podcast. So we'll be back next week on Monday night, recording for a Tuesday morning launch Australia time, post the Canadian Grand Prix, to have a conversation about everything that happened at that. As always, I am Stuart Brown. Thank you for joining us.
I am Reese Ashmore. Have a great night or day.
Wherever you are, and we will see you next week.